The third category in our SIOP model is comprehensible input. And those of you who have studied some second language acquisition theory will be very familiar with this term. It has to do with adjusting both the teacher's speech and the types of materials that are being used with the students so that they can understand what's being taught to them, but nonetheless also will help them learn new areas, new concepts, and new skills. Within this category of the SIOP model, we have three features that we focus on. One has to do with the speech that the teacher uses with the students. In some cases, we think about the tone of voice or the speed at which a teacher will deliver information or ask a question to the student. In other cases, it has to do with the word choice, whether or not the teacher uses a lot of synonyms, for example, or idiomatic speech. If a teacher is working with beginning students, we would not want a lot of synonymous terms or idioms being used because these students will not be so familiar with them. Nonetheless, on the other hand, if a teacher is working with advanced learners of English, well, then the teacher wants to approximate what would go on in a mainstream English medium classroom, a classroom with English speakers of these particular content areas, so that the students become more prepared for the type of speech patterns they will find in those classrooms when they make the transition out of the second language support program and into the mainstream. Another critical area that we have found in the research with regard to comprehensible input has to do with the academic tasks and the explanations of these tasks. Far too often in lessons that are being delivered very well, that are prepared in a wonderful manner with lots of supplemental materials and interesting activities, the lesson itself falls apart when we get down to the time when students have to do a task. What we recommend to teachers is that they explain the task as clearly as possible and not assume that the second language learners will know how to do it, even if it's a very common task, such as developing a timeline based on a historical chapter in the book. Because some of our second language learners may never have had the experience of writing a timeline. Therefore, we encourage teachers to explain the task orally, but also give a written explanation, and wherever possible, provide a model or go over a couple of examples with the students during the course of the lesson. The third piece that we find in the comprehensible input section of the SIOP has to do with the techniques that a teacher uses. Whether or not there are demonstrations, there's use of the realia, the types of body language and gestures, other kinds of ESL methods and activities that might be brought into the content area classroom to help the students understand the material that's being shared with them.